The Desperate Call. The Zephyrian Crisis. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the Grand Chamber on Nexus Station, where representatives from 47 different species gathered around the circular amphitheater. Ambassador Thylla of the Zephyrian Republic stood at the center podium, her crystalline skin reflecting the chamber's lights in prismatic patterns. Her normally serene voice cracked with desperation as she addressed the assembly. "Honored council members, my people are dying." Thylla began, her words translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. "The Malachar swarm has invaded our home system. 3 of our 5 worlds have already fallen to their brutality. Our remaining population of 12 million souls has retreated to our 2 remaining planets, but our defenses cannot hold much longer." The holographic display behind her showed devastating footage from the Zephyr system. Malachar bioships, resembling massive insects with chitinous hulls and organic weapons, swarmed around peaceful Zephyrian cities. These creatures were known throughout the galaxy as the most vicious raiders, consuming entire civilizations and leaving nothing but empty worlds behind. Chancellor Vorthak of the Hegemony Council, a towering reptilian being with scales that shifted from green to gold, spoke first. "Ambassador Thylla, while we sympathize with your people's plight, the Malachar swarm presents a significant military challenge. Our intelligence suggests they have deployed over 200 bioships to your system." Admiral Xenith, representing the powerful Alteran Federation, nodded in agreement. The Malachars chose their target wisely. The Zephyr system sits at the intersection of 3 major trade routes, making it strategically valuable. However, it also places the system beyond our immediate defensive perimeters. Any rescue mission would require substantial fleet commitments. Thylla's hopes began to fade as she listened to the political calculations. "But surely the principles of the Galactic Accord demand we protect member species from extinction," she pleaded. "The Accord also requires us to consider the greater good," Chancellor Vorthak replied coldly. "Deploying significant forces to Zephyr space would leave our core worlds vulnerable to Malachar retaliation. We cannot risk the safety of billions for the sake of millions." The Galactic Council's failure. As the debate continued, it became increasingly clear that no major power was willing to commit forces to save the Zephyrians. The Hegemony claimed their fleets were tied up defending their outer colonies. The Alteran Federation cited budget constraints and parliamentary approval processes that would take months. The Silicon Confederacy argued that their synthetic nature made them unsuitable for combating biological enemies. Each excuse cut deeper into Thylla's remaining hope. The Zephyrians had been model galactic citizens for 3 centuries, sharing their advanced agricultural techniques and serving as neutral mediators in countless disputes. Now, in their darkest hour, the galaxy was abandoning them to preserve political convenience. "Perhaps evacuation would be more practical," suggested Councillor Zix of the Merchant Coalition. "We could provide transport ships to relocate your population to refugee colonies and abandon our ancestral worlds to the Malachars." Thylla's voice rose in anguish. "Our people have lived in the Zephyr system for over 5,000 years. Our entire culture is built around the unique crystalline formations of our homeworlds. We would rather die defending our homes than live as homeless refugees." The chamber fell silent. Even the most callous council members felt uncomfortable with the situation, but none were willing to risk their own species for the Zephyrians. Chancellor Vorthak was preparing to call for a recess when an unexpected voice spoke from the newest section of the chamber. "Earth will respond to the Zephyrian request for aid." Earth's unexpected response. All eyes turned to Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. The human had been seated quietly in the section reserved for junior member species, taking notes on her primitive paper tablet while the major powers debated. Her species had joined the Council only 5 years earlier, after finally achieving faster-than-light travel and making contact with galactic civilization. Chancellor Vorthak's scales shifted to a deeper green, indicating annoyance. "Ambassador Rodriguez, while we appreciate humanity's enthusiasm, Your species has neither the military capabilities nor the experience to handle a crisis of this magnitude. Rodriguez stood slowly, her modest height of 5.5 feet, making her appear insignificant compared to the towering alien dignitaries around her. With respect, Chancellor, you asked for volunteers to help the Zephyrians. Earth volunteers. Admiral Xenith's tentacles writhed in what his species considered polite amusement. Human vessels are barely capable of interstellar patrol duty. According to our records, your largest warship carries a crew of only 60 beings and masses less than our escort frigates. What could one small ship accomplish against 200 Malachar biovessels? Sometimes size isn't everything, Rodriguez replied calmly. Humanity has learned that there are many ways to fight a war. Perhaps our approach might prove effective where traditional methods have failed. The chamber erupted in skeptical murmurs, and what passed for laughter among various alien species. The humans were known throughout the galaxy as the species that had somehow achieved spaceflight despite their violent history and primitive technology. Their ships were tiny, their weapons limited, and their understanding of galactic warfare minimal. This is absurd, Chancellor Vorthak declared. We cannot allow a junior species to throw away their lives in a hopeless gesture. Ambassador Rodriguez, I formally advise against this course of action. Rodriguez smiled, an expression that had puzzled aliens since first contact. Humans were the only known species that bared their teeth as a sign of friendliness rather than aggression. Chancellor, I appreciate your concern, but humanity has never been deterred by impossible odds. We're sending our best ship and our best crew to assist the Zephyrians. The Phantom Project. 3 days later, at the lunar shipyard orbiting Earth's moon, Captain Sarah Chen performed her final inspection of the UES Phantom. The vessel bore little resemblance to the gleaming, decorative ships favored by other galactic species. The Phantom was angular and dark, its hull composed of advanced metamaterials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Final systems check, Commander Park. Chen called to her executive officer, a sharp-eyed woman who had served in Earth's naval forces before transitioning to Space Command. All stealth systems operational, Captain, Park reported from her station. Quantum field generators are at full capacity, adaptive camouflage is responding perfectly, and our new plasma drive is running silent and smooth. Chen nodded, walking through the ship's corridors. Unlike the spacious, comfortable designs preferred by other species, the Phantom was built for efficiency and stealth. Every system was designed to minimize the ship's detectability while maximizing its combat effectiveness. In the engine room, Chief Petty Officer Marcus Thompson was making final adjustments to humanity's most closely guarded secret. The Phantom didn't just use stealth technology to avoid detection. It used principles that other species had never considered. Where galactic civilization focused on building bigger weapons and stronger shields, humans had perfected the art of not being seen until it was too late. How's our ghost protocol looking, Chief? Chen asked. Thompson grinned, his weathered hands moving confidently over the controls. Better than ever, Captain. We can maintain full stealth for weeks if needed. The new quantum processors make us completely invisible to their sensors. As far as the enemy will know, space is empty. The Phantom's crew consisted of 45 specialists, each chosen for their expertise in unconventional warfare. They weren't the largest crew in Earth's fleet, but they represented something new in galactic military thinking. While other species built their tactics around massive fleets engaging in direct combat, humans had learned warfare in Earth's oceans, where submarines could sink battleships through stealth and precision. Listen up, Chen announced to her assembled crew. In 12 hours, we'll arrive at the Zephyr system. Intelligence reports indicate over 200 Malachar bioships have established a complete blockade around the inhabited worlds. Our mission is simple. Break that blockade and save the Zephyrian people. Lieutenant Kevin Jung, the ship's tactical officer, raised his hand. Captain, how do we engage 200 enemy ships with any hope of success? Chen's smile carried the same confidence that Admiral Rodriguez had shown at the council. We don't engage 200 ships, Lieutenant. We engage one ship 200 times. Departure in doubt. As the Phantom prepared for departure, the galactic news networks were already calling it a suicide mission. Commentators from across the galaxy predicted that the small human ship would be destroyed within minutes of entering the Zephyr system. The general consensus was that humanity's naive heroism would only add another tragedy to the Zephyrian crisis. On Nexus Station, Ambassador Rodriguez received dozens of messages from other council members, all expressing sympathy for the inevitable loss of the Phantom and its crew. Chancellor Vorthek sent a particularly condescending note suggesting that humanity should focus on more realistic contributions to galactic society. But on Earth, the mood was different. Fleet Admiral James Harrison stood in the command center beneath the Swiss Alps, watching the departure of humanity's most advanced warship. Unlike the aliens, Harrison understood exactly what the Phantom represented. It wasn't just a ship, it was the culmination of human military evolution. "Sir," asked his aide, Commander Lisa Park, sister to the Phantom's executive officer, "what if they're right? What if one ship really can't make a difference?" Harrison smiled grimly. "Commander, other species build their military doctrine around the assumption that their enemies will fight honorably, in the open, following established rules of engagement. They've never faced an enemy that refuses to be seen, that strikes without warning, and that disappears before retaliation is possible." As the Phantom jumped to hyperspace, beginning its journey to the Zephyr system, Harrison sent a message to Ambassador Rodriguez. "Tell the Council that help is on the way. And tell them the galaxy is about to learn something important about human warfare." First contact with despair, the UES Phantom dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyr system, its stealth systems immediately engaging to render it invisible to sensors. Captain Chen studied the tactical display, which showed a devastating scene. The beautiful crystalline cities of Zephyr Prime were scared by Malachar bioweapons, their surfaces blackened by organic acid attacks. "My God," whispered Commander Park, viewing the destruction through their passive sensors. "They're not just conquering the worlds, they're terraforming them." The Malachar bioships moved through the system like a living plague, their organic hulls pulsing with sickly bioluminescence. The largest vessels resembled massive insects, complete with compound sensor arrays and weapon pods that fired streams of corrosive biological material. Smaller attack craft swarmed around them like angry wasps, their movements chaotic but deadly. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Zhang from Tactical, "I'm reading massive Malachar formations around both inhabited worlds. It looks like they're preparing for final assault operations." On Zephyr Prime's surface, the remaining Zephyrian population had retreated to underground crystal caverns, natural formations that provided some protection from the bioweapons. But even these ancient refuges were failing as the Malachars adapted their attack strategies. Chen established communication with the Zephyrian emergency government. Ambassador Thila's image appeared on the main screen, her crystalline features dulled by exhaustion and despair. "Captain Chen," Thila said, her voice barely containing hope, "we received word that Earth was sending aid, but—" She paused, looking at the modest bridge of the Phantom. "How many ships are coming?" "Just us, Ambassador," Chen replied calmly. "But we're here to end this siege and save your people." Thila's expression shifted to one of profound sadness. "Captain, I appreciate your courage, but our sensors show over 200 Malachar vessels in our system. Your single ship cannot possibly—" "Ambassador," Chen interrupted gently, "has anyone ever told you how humans hunt?" The question puzzled Thila. "Hunt? I don't understand the relevance." Chen smiled. "On Earth, our ancestors learned to hunt prey much larger and stronger than themselves. They didn't charge directly at their targets. They stalked them, studied their patterns, and struck when the prey was most vulnerable. That's how a small pack could bring down creatures 10 times their size." As if to emphasize her point, the Phantom's sensors detected a lone Malachar scout ship passing nearby, completely unaware of the human vessel's presence. The bioship continued its patrol route, its organic sensors unable to penetrate humanity's stealth technology. The Malakars are about to learn something about human tactics, Chen concluded. We'll be in touch soon with better news. As the transmission ended, Chen turned to her crew. The bridge was silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Outside, 200 enemy vessels waited, confident in their overwhelming numbers and proven tactics. All right, people, Chen announced. Time to show the galaxy what humans do best. Let's go hunting. The silent strike, assessment, and strategy. For 6 hours, the UES Phantom drifted through the Zephyr system like a ghost, its advanced sensors mapping every Malakar position, while remaining completely undetected. Captain Chen and her tactical team studied the enemy formations with the patience of natural predators. The Malakars have established 3 main battle groups, Lieutenant Zhang reported, his analysis appearing on the holographic display. 80 bioships around Zephyr Prime, 60 around Zephyr Secondary, and the remaining 60 vessels form a mobile reserve force. Commander Park studied the tactical readouts. They're using standard swarm tactics, multiple redundant formations with overlapping defensive patterns. Any conventional attack would face the combined firepower of all nearby vessels. Chen nodded, walking around the 3-dimensional display that showed the enemy positions. Unlike the aliens who had dismissed the Malakars as mindless brutes, she recognized the intelligence behind their deployment. The bioships moved in complex patterns that appeared random but actually provided maximum coverage of space around the inhabited worlds. Chief Thompson, Chen called to engineering. How long can we maintain full stealth operations? 3 weeks minimum, Captain, came the reply. Our quantum field generators are running perfectly, and we have enough power reserves to stay invisible indefinitely. The tactical display showed something that had escaped the attention of the Galactic Council's military analysts. The Malakar formations, while effective against conventional fleets, had a critical weakness. They were designed to fight enemies that announced their presence, engaged in direct combat, and followed predictable battle doctrines. Look at their patrol patterns, Chen said, highlighting specific movements on the display. They're expecting an attack from outside the system. All their sensors are focused on detecting approaching fleets, not threats that are already inside their perimeter. Lieutenant Zhang began to understand. They've never fought an enemy that uses stealth as a primary weapon. Exactly. Every species in the galaxy builds bigger ships with more powerful weapons. The Malakars have adapted to counter that approach. But they have no defense against an enemy they can't see, can't track, and can't predict. Chen called up the profiles of each major Malakar vessel. The bioships were formidable opponents, with organic armor that could regenerate from minor damage and weapon systems that fired corrosive biological projectiles. However, their organic nature also created vulnerabilities that synthetic ships wouldn't have. The Ghost Protocol. All stations, implement Ghost Protocol, Chen ordered. Throughout the ship, the crew switched to their specialized stealth operations procedures. All non-essential systems were powered down, communications were reduced to hand signals and whispered commands, and the Phantom became as silent as the vacuum of space around it. The ship's first target was a Malakar scout vessel patrolling the outer edge of the system. The bioship was relatively small, about the size of a human destroyer, but its organic sensors made it dangerous to any conventional approach. The creature ship's compound eyes could detect energy signatures across multiple spectrums, and its living hull could sense vibrations through space itself. Bringing us to within 500 meters of the target, whispered Navigator Chen, her hands moving carefully over the controls. Maintaining stealth approach vector. The Phantom glided through space like a predator stalking its prey. The Malakar scout continued its patrol route, completely unaware that death was approaching from the darkness. Its organic sensors, so effective against normal ships, found nothing but empty space where the human vessel should have been. Target locked, Zhang reported quietly. Plasma torpedo loaded and ready. Fire, Chen commanded. The torpedo launched silently from the Phantom's forward tube, its own stealth coating making it invisible until the moment of impact. The Malachar scout had only seconds to register the incoming threat before the plasma warhead struck its central nervous system. The bioship convulsed once and went dark, drifting as lifeless as any asteroid. First kill confirmed, Jean reported. No distress signal detected. The Phantom immediately moved to a new position, its stealth systems ensuring that no trace of the attack could be detected. To the other Malachar vessels, their scout had simply stopped responding to communications. In a swarm of 200 bioships, the loss of one unit barely registered. Striking from the shadows. Over the next 18 hours, the pattern repeated again and again. The Phantom would identify an isolated target, approach undetected, strike with precision, and vanish before anyone could respond. Each attack was carefully planned to appear random, preventing the Malachars from identifying any tactical pattern. A supply vessel carrying biomatter to the main fleet simply exploded without warning. A communications relay ship went silent during what appeared to be a routine system malfunction. Scout vessels patrolling the system's edge disappeared one by one, their fate unknown to their commanders. Confirmed kills now at 15, Jean reported as they moved to their next target. The Malachars are starting to show signs of confusion in their communications. Chen monitored the enemy transmissions, which her ship's computers translated from the complex biochemical signals the creatures used to communicate. The Malachar commanders were indeed becoming concerned about the unexplained losses, but they had no frame of reference for what was happening. The 16th target was more challenging. A medium-sized bioship serving as a sensor platform for one of the main battle groups. Destroying it would blind the Malachars to a significant portion of space around Zephyr Prime, but it was positioned close to other vessels that might detect the attack. "We'll need to be especially quiet for this one," Chen told her crew. "The target is only 2 kilometers from 3 other bioships. Any mistake will alert the entire formation." The Phantom approached with glacial slowness, using the gravitational field of a nearby asteroid to mask its movement. The sensor platform was a grotesque fusion of living tissue and organic technology, its multiple eyes scanning space in search of threats it couldn't imagine. "Plasma torpedo ready," Jean whispered. "But Captain, if we attack from this angle, the explosion might be visible to the nearby ships." Chen studied the tactical display, considering options that no other galactic species would have thought possible. "We're not using the torpedo. Prepare the molecular disruptor beam." The molecular disruptor was humanity's newest weapon, designed specifically for stealth operations. Instead of creating an explosion, it simply unraveled the molecular bonds holding matter together. To external observers, the target would appear to suffer a catastrophic system failure rather than enemy action. The invisible beam reached out from the Phantom and touched the sensor platform. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the bioship began to come apart at the cellular level, its organic components losing cohesion and drifting away like dust. To the nearby Malachars, it looked like their sensor platform had suffered a fatal biological breakdown. The Malachars' confusion. By the end of the second day, the Malachar commanders were facing a crisis they couldn't understand. 23 of their vessels had been lost to unknown causes, and their carefully planned formations were beginning to show gaps. The organic communication networks that connected the bioships carried increasingly frantic signals as captains reported unexplained phenomena. General Vrak, the supreme commander of the Malachar invasion force, called for a full status report from his vessel, a massive bio-dreadnought that served as the swarm's brain. The creature ship was over 2 kilometers long, its hull covered in sensory organs and weapon clusters that made it appear more like a living nightmare than a military vessel. Status report from all sector commanders. Vrak's biochemical signals demanded. The responses painted a picture of systematic losses that made no tactical sense. Vessels were disappearing or suffering fatal malfunctions at a rate that far exceeded normal operations. Most disturbing was the complete lack of enemy contact. No Malachar ship had detected any hostile presence, yet their numbers continued to decline. Could this be some new Zephyrian weapon? Suggested Sub-Commander Krell, whose bioship managed the western approach to Zephyr Prime. Impossible, Vrak replied. Our intelligence is complete. The Zephyrians have no military technology beyond basic defensive shields. They are prey species, incapable of meaningful resistance. As the commanders debated, the Phantom struck again. This time, the target was a command vessel coordinating the siege of Zephyr Secondary. The bioship simply stopped responding to communications, its organic brain apparently suffering a catastrophic neural breakdown. Perhaps we should withdraw to defensive positions, suggested another sub-commander. Something is hunting our ships. Vrak's anger sent ripples of biochemical fury through the communication network. Malakars do not retreat from invisible enemies. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. No creature hunts us. But even as Vrak denied the possibility, his own massive bioship began implementing evasive maneuvers. The Malakars were experiencing something their species had never encountered: the fear of being prey rather than predator. Liberation of Zephyr Prime. On the third day, Captain Chen decided it was time to reveal humanity's presence to both the Malakars and the Zephyrians. The enemy had lost 37 vessels to unknown causes, and their formations were beginning to collapse as commanders pulled back to defensive positions. Open a channel to Ambassador Thilla, Chen ordered. The Zephyrian leader appeared on screen, her crystalline features showing surprise and cautious hope. Behind her, other Zephyrian officials gathered around communication equipment in their underground refuge. Captain Chen, Thilla said, "We've been monitoring Malakar communications. Something is attacking their fleet, but we cannot determine what. Our sensors show no other vessels in the system besides your ship." Chen smiled. "That's because you're looking for something that wants to be seen. Humans learned long ago that the most effective weapon is the one your enemy never knows is there." "You mean your single ship has been responsible for the Malakar losses?" 37 confirmed kills so far, with 0 damage to the Phantom. "But we're just getting started. It's time to end this siege and send the Malakars a message they'll never forget." Chen switched to a fleet-wide communication frequency that would reach every Malakar vessel in the system. When she spoke, her words were translated into the biochemical signals the creatures understood. "Attention Malakar forces. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Phantom. You have invaded the territory of a Galactic Council member species and committed acts of genocide against the Zephyrian people. By the authority vested in me by the Terran Defense Force, I order you to withdraw from this system immediately." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every Malakar bioship in the system began transmitting threats, challenges, and demands to know the location of the human vessel. Their sensors swept space frantically, searching for any trace of the Phantom. "They still can't see us," Commander Park observed with satisfaction. "Then let's give them something to look at," Chen replied. "Target the command dreadnought. Prepare all weapons for simultaneous strike." Aftermath and recognition. The final battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. The Phantom appeared seemingly from nowhere, its weapon systems revealing themselves for the first time as plasma torpedoes and disruptor beams reached out to touch the Malakar command ship. General Vrak's bio-dreadnought, despite its massive size and organic armor, had no defense against weapons it couldn't see coming. As the command vessel died, its biochemical death screams spread panic through the remaining Malakar fleet. The smaller bioships, deprived of their central coordination and terrified by an enemy they couldn't comprehend, began fleeing the system in disorder. "Pursuit?" asked Lieutenant Zhang. "Negative," Chen replied. "Let them go. They'll spread word about what happened here. Sometimes fear is more effective than total victory." Within hours, news of the Phantom's success reached the Galactic Council. The impossible had happened. A single human ship had defeated an entire Malakar invasion force without suffering a single casualty. The implication sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. Ambassador Rodriguez stood before the emergency council session, her small human frame commanding attention in a way that would have been impossible just days before. Chancellor Vorthek, his scales now showing deep purple patterns of respect, spoke first. Ambassador Rodriguez, the Galactic Council owes humanity a formal apology. We underestimated both your species' capabilities and your commitment to Council principles. We also owe the Zephyrians our gratitude. Rodriguez replied. They trusted us when no one else would. Sometimes faith in unlikely allies produces extraordinary results. Admiral Xeneth's tentacles moved in the complex pattern his species used to express profound respect. The human approach to warfare is unique. We would be honored to learn from your tactical innovations. As the session concluded, Rodriguez received a private message from Earth. Fleet Admiral Harrison's face appeared on her personal communicator, his expression showing quiet satisfaction. The galaxy has learned its first lesson about human military thinking, Harrison said. But remember, Alina, this is just the beginning. The Phantom proved that humans can fight differently. Now we need to teach them that we can also fight together. On Zephyr Prime, the reconstruction had already begun. Ambassador Thilla stood in the ruins of her capital city, watching human engineers work alongside Zephyrian civilians to rebuild what the Malakars had destroyed. The sight of the two species collaborating gave her hope for the future. Captain Chen, still aboard the Phantom as it patrolled the system, received a final message from the Galactic Council. Humanity had been invited to join the Council's Military Advisory Board, and Earth's fleet would be expanded to help protect other member species. But perhaps most importantly, the galaxy had learned that strength came in many forms. Sometimes the smallest voice could make the biggest difference, and sometimes the most unlikely ally could prove to be the most valuable friend. The age of human influence in galactic affairs had begun, not with conquest or domination, but with a single ship and crew willing to help those who had nowhere else to turn. The Phantom continued its silent patrol, a guardian in the darkness, ready to protect those who needed protection and defend those who couldn't defend themselves. In the end, that was what humanity brought to the galaxy, not just new ways of fighting, but new reasons to fight.